on, girl, let's scream.
I am a god.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. This is the part where you run.
Come on, scream.
Hello and welcome to Let's Scream, a podcast where we dive into our favorite horror movies. I'm Parker.
And I'm Stevie. Today we are looking at 2007's Paranormal Activity, directed by Oren Peli.
Join us as we journey to Katie and Micah's house and learn all about Tobi.
Come on, girl. Let's scream.
Let's scream. Okay, so Paranormal Activity, the first one.
The very
OG.
first one.
I enjoy this first Paranormal Activity. It's actually not my favorite one of the series. And I usually like the OG in a series. I usually always prefer the first one.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Paranormal Activity, I kind of like the second one. That's the one where I feel like it really starts to go off.
More stuff happens. There's more
Right.
camera angles, because this one, it's one camera the whole time.
Yeah, all the one perspective.
Which I think the later ones kind of get right, because I like the third one. I don't know if that's controversial.
The third one's in the 80s?
That's the last one I know. I only know the first three. I don't know anything past I know the stories kind of for the later ones, but I've never seen them.
I've seen them all. Some are good. Some are bad. Because that's the thing. So
Okay, sorry. I just remembered. Fun story for Paranormal Activity 3. That was in my era of I was not 17, so I couldn't go see rated R movies. So me and my friend would always just buy tickets to a movie and then go see another movie.
Oh,
and so this was one of the movies we snuck into.
We
snuck into Paranormal Activity.
I feel like
3.
I knew a lot of people who snuck into Paranormal Activity movies. Because it was I think it's just because these were the scary movies when I was in high school.
These were
middle school and high school.
I remember these ones were really big.
And there was one every year. They every year around Halloween there was always a new.
Yeah, because this one actually, it originally came out in 2007, but it didn't really make big release until 2009.
Okay.
It premiered at Screamfest in 2007, but it didn't get wide release until 2009 when it was picked up. So it just took a while for the movie to get sold, I guess.
And it's our first found footage movie of the Let's Scream podcast.
Oh, I was like,
and not ever, no. But of this podcast, the first one we've covered. And yeah, it basically sparked this huge movement. This
lot of this whole setup of something's going on, so we're gonna film it to catch it.
And there were so many movies like that.
Then we just got a ton
because it was made on a really small budget, and it made the most profit.
Yeah. So to give you the production itself cost $15,000. Post production, a little more, $215,000.
Which that's nothing.
That's nothing, because that's just post production. Isn't that release?
Yeah,
and promotion.
Well, and even the initial budget of $15,000.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. Because that's just to make the film, pay the actors, which I mean, it's 4 actors the whole film,
right, and just
one
the
camera,
the one setting, and it went on to make how much money?
Just under $200 million. According to Wikipedia.
Insane.
This is all according to Wikipedia, by the way, y'all.
Yeah. That's where we get our numbers on this esteemed podcast.
But yeah.
But here's the thing about found footage movies, okay? Here's the caveat. When executed correctly, found footage movies can be really fucking good.
Yeah, I agree.
And really effectively creepy. But you can very easily make a horrible found footage that is cheap, not scary, and corny.
Yeah.
And I think that for the most part, this first Paranormal Activity does a great job of just being creepy, using subtle things to scare you. It does a lot with very little.
Yes.
And so I think that's why it was so successful. I think that's what was so creative about it at the time. And yeah, we have some, shitty sequels. But for the most part, I really like the Paranormal Activity series. Yeah. And I kind of miss them. Bring it back. You know what I mean? Or the found footage genre in general. I feel like it kind of died off. But I'm ready for it again.
Yeah. I like it. I think it's paced well. It doesn't overstay its welcome, which I do love. The movie doesn't
Yeah, I like
overstay
the
its
short.
welcome.
Yeah.
But not a lot happens in this movie.
True, no, it's
kind
true.
of like
That's why I like the second one more than this one.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It's just not a lot to like go off of.
The
There's only
second
two
one and even the
characters.
third one, they have some campier moments that I just kind of like live for.
Yeah, that's true. This one like is a good setup for the rest of the series to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, again, they couldn't really do. Again, knowing they only had $15,000, it's like a lot of what they're doing is like obviously
Just
some fish hook or some fish wire.
right.
And some fans off screen.
Yep.
And some like light work.
Yeah.
And a really good sound. You pointed out
That's
the sound effects.
I think that's
the sound design
golden
in this.
ticket. in
Yes,
this
the sound
movie.
design is very good in this. I do agree with that.
I think that is what makes it actually.
I think that's probably the
Yeah.
creepiest part of this movie.
Uh-huh.
Because some of the stuff that happens, that like when stuff moving, I'm like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah,
I'm like,
not that
okay.
like when the door moves, you're like, okay. But I think that because the sound design, like the creak of that
Yes.
door,
Yes.
and the kind of that low humming that happens whenever Toby's around,
Yes.
which we'll get into. But okay, so enough chit chat. Let's get into it, bitch. I'm ready to go to
this.
Katie and Micah's house.
All right.
So it all begins here in San Diego in 2006. We get a title card that says Paramount Pictures would like to thank the families of Micah Sloat and Katie Featherson and the San Diego Police Department. Which I think these are their real names. Like the actors who played Micah and Katie, these are their real last names. It's the same
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely is. Yep.
Which is very Blair Witch, because like when Blair Witch came out, they like referred to the characters and all of the marketing as like their real names. And so it's like, oh, did this really happen? Da 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 da. It's again, we talked about this in our Texas Chainsaw episode.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of these are based on real events. And it's like, no.
No.
They're actually not. Liza Minnelli.
Lies.
Liza Minnelli, lies.
We meet Micah first. He gets the
Camera
out.
rolling.
Yeah. And we see their house, which is very 2006.
Oh, it is.
It's brown.
It's brown.
This
There
house
is ugly
is brown.
brown furniture.
The decor.
The cabinets in the kitchen are those ugly brown wooden cabinets. It's
I don't
the
understand
decor
why
is
we wanted
disgusting.
brown decor.
It's just
That-
it's a big space though.
It is. It's a big house.
In San Diego, what is this couple doing to afford this? Because she mentioned she's a student later.
Right. Well, he's like a day trader, I guess.
What the fuck's that?
It's a bullshit job. It's a bullshit
Enough to
movie
afford
job.
that nice place in San Diego.
I feel like if you want your characters to just have like a bunch of time on their hands,
Yeah.
make them a day trader.
I guess so.
Oh, and they've got that horrible leopard print rug in their living room.
Ugh.
Disgusting. But moving on from
moving
their
on.
ugly ass house.
Moving on from that
That's when we meet-
disgusting
Yeah,
their mess that is their
horrible.
house. You know what? If I was that demon and this is where you made me live, I'd be pissed.
I'd be
too.
mad too. I'd be like, y'all need to redecorate, bitch. Like, what is going on? What are these mocha colored walls? What is this? Coffee colored fucking the stair banister, the wooden with the
it's just all bad.
with the black like iron spindles or whatever.
Yes.
Oh. Anywho, we meet Katie. Katie is Mika's girlfriend, and she comes home and she's like, "Oh, that's a big camera. Like, how much did it cost you?" And he says about half as much as he made in that one day.
Wow.
So I guess he makes good ass money. And-
Really? I mean, again, look at the place. It has a pool too.
yeah, they have a pool. Yeah, it does have that horrible half wall though.
It's just there's some choices.
I feel like and
I
Mommy
hate this house.
and Mommy Dearest when she's like, knock down that bitch of a barren wall and put a window where it ought to be. That would be me if they asked me
it's
to
just-
do the interior design of this house.
I'd be like, okay, first of all, everything's got it. Got it.
Burn it. Why couldn't this house have burned down instead of her childhood home?
Okay.
Also,
If I was on House Hunters, I'd be like, hey, just to let you know, there was a haunting in this house. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, is that what you call it? Is that what you call the bad decorating? A haunting? Yeah, for sure.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, also, and again, 2006, but they're both wearing bootcut jeans. What was that? Can we talk about bootcut jeans?
Oh my God.
Why were we all walking around in bootcut jeans and none of us were
You know
wearing
what
boots?
I'm glad doesn't exist anymore? Skinny jeans. I can't
Yeah,
do
skinny jeans. No one looks good in skinny
Can't do
jeans.
skinny- But boot cut, yeah. No, boot cut's not.
Like, why? It was like a low-rise boot cut. Like,
Oh, there's a lot of like choices in their outfits, but also just a lot of underwear in this movie.
yeah, and Micah wears those real
Boxers.
like those long boxers.
Not
that
the
are
ones,
just
though,
so
that-
unflattering.
Not the ones with like the button that like trade with good dick wears.
Right,
But like, I
like-
was at the point where I was like, either put on the boxer briefs, put on the like regular,
Micah,
just like plaid
There's
boxers.
also,
but-
you're not getting any support down there with those.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So, anyways, she's
So we haven't even started the movie yet.
well, no, she's home. Katie's home.
Yeah.
And Micah, and they're in the kitchen and they're talking.
He's making dinner and he says, well, maybe we can try and capture it on camera.
Yes, so we get the idea that there's shit that's been going on for a while
Yeah.
or a bit.
He says we can maybe try and figure out what, quote unquote, it is. I bet we're going to find that it is some neighborhood kids messing with you. And she says, well, unless neighborhood kids have been following me around since I was 8, I doubt it's them. While testing the audio, Micah asks Katie, she knows any tricks to make
It
happen. She says, I don't want it to happen at all.
It? You know what I've had? It.
Officially.
I've had it officially.
And she says, but you believe me, right? And there's kind of like a pause. It's kind of awkward because he clearly doesn't believe her, whatever this is. Then Katie and Micah, they're sitting on the couch and we hear like a light kind of like tapping sound coming from the kitchen. And Micah takes the camera in there and it's like our first like suspenseful like, oh, what's that? And then it's just the like ice machine. It was a fake out. And then he kind of is trying to like make a sex tape with her basically.
Yeah.
Like,
And she's like, no.
not into it. No.
No.
And he gets the camera set up on a tripod that like it faces
Overlooking them while
their-
they're asleep. And they're like messing then like with the hall lights.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out like, how can we light up the hall enough? And they figure out like if they light like a closet in the back of the hall.
Right. It's like down at the end. Yeah.
That it lights enough that they can see it while they're
can-
sleeping.
Yeah.
But
Because
it
they're
doesn't
trying to
bother them.
capture
It.
And the very first night, we just hear some footsteps walking around downstairs. And then we hear the sound of keys, like clattering to the floor. And the next morning, Katie goes downstairs and she notices...
She's like, hey, what do you want for breakfast? And she's like, I'm gonna make some scrambled eggs. He's like, sounds fine. Because he's like messing with the camera upstairs. And then
She's
from
like,
all of a sudden, she's
"Micah."
like, Micah, did you move my keys?
He's like, no.
He's like, what? And she's like, come here.
I was put them right here on the counter.
And he goes downstairs and they're just like on the middle of the floor.
laying in like the middle of the like living room.
And he's like, well, where did you leave them last? And she's like,
I always put them on the same spot.
and it's like on the back of the counter. Like it's a clear spot where it's like, oh, that's, I get that.
Like they wouldn't have been able to
like a designated
fall
spot where,
though. Like there's-
Exactly.
Like it doesn't make sense for them to have gone on the
it's not like a
floor.
spot where it's just like, oh, she threw them, it missed, and they fell. It was like completely far away. So something's up.
Something's definitely up. We see like a montage of them hanging out by the pool and kind of get like a gist for their basic personalities. These actors do such a good job though. Like I will say.
Oh, it feels
They
like, I'm not
sell
gonna
it.
lie, and this is like in a compliment way, it feels like a YouTube like vlog. their acting. So like how real it is. Where it's like,
believable.
We're just chilling. We're just doing our thing.
The way they talk and they speak, because obviously this was like pretty much improvised. Like I think that the director was like, here's like
an idea
description of what I want to happen.
Yeah,
just kind of go for it. And they carry this movie, and it's a reason. I think the sound design mixed with the amazing acting is like the formula for how good this is.
Absolutely.
And Katie tells us today is a big day because the psychic is coming over. And she goes to Micah and she's like, are you ready for the psychic? And he says, yeah, actually, I found something to welcome the psychic. I think he'll appreciate this. And he plays this like royalty-free, like spooky music that he found. It sounds like a knockoff of the Exorcist theme song, kind of. And she's like, very funny, Micah. And we get this vibe of Micah very early on that he does not believe Katie. He does not give a shit about what Katie's feeling. He's childish. He's just kind of a D-hole of a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And it gets worse. It like definitely like progresses worse.
Yeah.
But I think that's important to note that Micah is kind of like not a good boyfriend because it plays into some of the themes that I believe this movie is trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is nothing crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have like thought about this before.
I could see this being a movie with just a ton of theories.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll get into it. So the doctor guy shows up, Dr. Fredericks, and he consults with them in the living room. And we learn that Katie and Micah started dating about 3 years ago and that they plan on getting engaged when she finishes school. She's studying to be a teacher, like an English teacher, I think.
Yeah.
And the doctor says, okay, well, before we start here, I'll just give the precedent that usually I can explain away whatever's going on by like something practical, basically. Like maybe it's a door that was not installed properly, so it swings open on itself, or some faulty lighting, and that's why the lights flicker.
Or it's an old house and it's just creaking.
Just creaking and settling. He says, and usually people are just in a stressful time.
And they're paranoid.
And it makes them paranoid. And it usually is connected to some kind of stressful thing that's going on. So hopefully that's just what's happening here. And go ahead and give me the backstory of this. This is when we get our backstory. This is the setup for the entire Paranormal Activity franchise,
and
right?
And kind of reveals that when she was 8 and her younger sister, Katie, was 5...
Her younger sister, Christy.
Oh, Christy. Sorry, she's Katie. Oh my God. Katie and Christy. Mm-hmm. But when Christy, they were woken up in the night by heavy breathing and noticed a shadowy figure standing at the foot of her bed, at Katie's bed.
Yeah.
And she was like...
And Christy could see it too, apparently.
Could see it too. But it didn't stand like beside her or anything, and they like could feel the breathing, but they were both like very paralyzed with fear, and the presence kind of seems to come and go throughout her life. Like she again noticed it, I think she mentioned that like 13.
Yeah. And maybe like in college or something. Yeah. Like basically everywhere she goes it follows.
Yeah.
But then it's weird because that first house that they lived in where they first started experiencing the entity, it caught on fire. Yeah, it burned down.
And there was no reason for they couldn't find no reason for the fire.
They're like, she was like, they did an investigation and they just couldn't figure out why this and that. And she says, ever since then, I've just experienced these strange occurrences. And here in the past couple weeks, it's actually started to flare up again and it's gotten much worse.
Yes.
And they kind of show the psychic around the house. They take him up to the bedroom and he's like, this is where most of the like phenomenon is occurring.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you're right, like it is. So that's kind of like, ooh, how did he know that?
Yeah.
He sits them back downstairs and he says, okay,
I'm gonna be real.
Let me give you the tea.
Let me tell you ladies what's up right now.
So in my professional opinion, this isn't a typical haunting. This isn't a ghost.
Yeah.
Ghosts we associate as spirits of human beings that have passed away and are still clinging on to the mortal realm.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a ghost.
Yeah, no. It's a little bit darker.
Because ghosts, like, haunt a house.
Yeah.
So if you move away, like, hypothetically speaking, Katie, when you moved away from that house that burned down, this should not have continued to happen.
Follow you. Yeah.
So, I think...
You might got a demon on your hands.
Demon, bitch. I think it's a demon. And this is our first hint at Tobi, bitch.
Yes.
And Tobi is, not named Tobi in this first movie. But we find out that when Katie was a little girl, her and Christy named him Tobi.
Because it was Christy's... In that one, you think it's an imaginary friend. It's played off as an imaginary friend. But
it's Tobi.
Oh, no, it's not. It ain't imaginary.
Mm-mm. And so, anyway, I will be calling him Tobi in this movie.
Yes.
I think it's funny that his name is Tobi.
Because canonically it is.
And Dr. Frederick says, okay, so here's the thing about demons, is that they feed off of negative energy, and they just like to make people suffer. They find joy out of it, and they will feel antagonized if you try and film it or try to capture it on video. It doesn't like that. And so that is not a good sign, because we've got Mr. Micah, who's trying to get a bunch of fucking footage of Tobi.
Yeah.
Continuing to, like, egg it on. And Mika's even like, well, what if we just got a Ouija board? And, like, try to talk to it. Dr. Frederick says, don't fucking do that, okay? Because you will open a portal, and you're basically inviting the demon in.
Yeah.
If you try and communicate with it. So he strongly advises no Ouija boards. But he says, yep, this is dark-sided. This is demons. This is gargoyles. And I'm not going to be able to help you.
Yeah.
Because I'm just a psychic. You need a demonologist.
He says he also feels very uncomfortable dealing with this.
Yeah.
He's like, this is not
my area of expertise.
I do not like this. I am not doing this.
He says, y'all need a demonologist. Yeah. And I'm going to refer you to Dr. Avery's, who is a demonologist. And I think you need to call him as soon as possible. And he leaves. And Micah is not taking any of this seriously. He thinks that this is all just some bullshit.
Yeah.
And he says, Katie, I don't want you to invite no motherfucking demonologist over here.
Absolutely not.
And she's like, okay, fine. But if it gets worse,
I'm doing it.
I will call him. And he tries again to make another sex tape. That's like all he wants to do. And she's like,
no. And then she has to go to the bathroom, and he tries to record her while she's peeing.
Again, childish.
And he's just annoying and an asshole.
Yeah. And that night, they're asleep, and the door swings back and forth on its own.
And we hear some low grumbling and like, it's creepy.
I think Tobi must have been
hungry.
I think he was gooning. He was like, ugh. He was grunting for sure.
Gooning?
He was
gooning.
Really gooning. I think
the
subtitle said Tobi goons in the distance.
Okay, anyways, he was like looking over the film and he discovered that, and he showed Katie, and like they're both like
oh,
fucking creeped
what
out.
What the hell is that? And then later that day, Micah is like recording himself playing guitar, and then we hear Katie scream really loudly from the other room, and he grabs the camera first. He's like, let me just record it.
We would like see him start to run. He's like, wait a minute. And he goes
but let me
back.
get my camera. And we see, it was just a spider. It was another fake house.
And she's pissed. She's like, did you really go to the camera first? He's like, well, I thought it was a ghost.
Yeah. Micah sucks.
Which, a little fair, but like, he also sucks.
Yeah. But that night, Katie walks in the bedroom. She is surprised to find Micah. He is in bed and he is reading this book that he got. He must have picked it up at Borders, because Borders was still in business back then.
I remember Borders.
I loved myself a Borders.
But I like Barnes & Noble.
I like Barnes & Noble because you can sit in the cafe.
Yeah.
Be classy.
And then, question. Did you, every time you walk into a Borders or Barnes & Noble, do you have to take a shit?
I know. I've never experienced that before.
Because that's a, like, phenomenon.
Do you think it's, like, the smell of the, like, espresso or something?
No, it has nothing to do with the coffee. It's like something... Keaton explain. I'll make Keaton explain it to you. It has something to do with, like... I don't know.
So intrigued.
Oh, it's like the lights... Because of how bright they are, like they give off.
It makes
like
you have to shit?
They give off like a certain gas or like something.
A gas?
I don't know. I'll make Keaton explain it. Everyone on the pod who's listening to the pod, go look it up. It's a fact. It's true. Anyways.
This is fascinating.
Anyways, do you think he had to take a massive shit when he went to buy that demonology book?
Most likely.
Yeah, he's learning about demons because he's like, well, let me read up. He never learns what demon we're dealing with.
I don't think he can read. Micah is dumb. He's like, I'm going to take care of it myself. He doesn't have a southern accent, but
that's how he sounds to you.
Yeah, it kind of comes across like that kind of annoying, toxic masculinity kind of thing. And then he starts guilt tripping her. He's like, well, you didn't ever tell me about this, so I feel like I should have a say in what happens, And she's like very...
What do you want me to do?
Very fairly like, when
date?
should I have told you? Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I got a demon following me.
Like, when would you...
How would you? Okay, Parker, but I do have something to confess to you. Since we do this podcast together, I do have a demon following me.
Well, we know. And it's Keaton Bailey. And the demon's name is Keaton Bailey.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Don't talk about Keaton like that. How dare you?
Kidding.
That's my partner. That's the love of my life. I love them. Don't you ever say that, but you're right.
But where's the lie? Love you, Keats.
Oh, I love you, baby.
So that night, we get this big jump scare when Katie sits up in bed and she gasps.
Oh, I've done this before.
She just said, I've had a nightmare, and she's like, oh my God. And then we immediately hear this crazy, like, banging sound coming from downstairs. They go downstairs, but they find nothing, and so they just go back to bed. The next day, Katie and her friend with the bangs are trying to, like, they're doing, like, beaded jewelry or something. Amber with her bangs. Amber. Brad.
Yeah, they're like beading.
They're doing,
some beading.
some kind of like beaded jewelry thing.
It was Etsy before Etsy,
Oh, Katie would 100% have a fucking Etsy.
Oh, she would have ate Etsy. She would have loved Etsy.
She would have been number one, like, bedazzler on Etsy. And he's basically, like, just shoving the camera in their face while they're trying to, have girl time. And he's like, hey, I want to get a Ouija board.
She's like, no.
She says, absolutely fucking not. And she says, Micah, promise me you won't get a Ouija board. And he goes, okay, fine. I promise I won't buy a Ouija board.
This boy is a liar.
Liar. Boy's a liar. Boy's a liar. And then we see Micah.
Pink Panthers.
And he is filming the upstairs hallway, yelling out threats to, like, antagonize Tobi. And that night, they are woken up by a soft thudding noise. And then suddenly a piercing shriek.
Oh, this one was
scary.
This was scary.
It like
a
comes down the hallway, and then you hear just like a slamming sound. It's like a banshee kind of shriek. Yeah. And they go downstairs to investigate, but the chandelier is very subtly swinging back and forth. And it's so creepy.
And it just, the whole time they're down there, it's just swinging.
And the next day, Katie tells Micah that I think that the camera is like making it worse. Like, it's because you're filming, and that's what the doctor said. He said we shouldn't be antagonizing Tobi.
Yeah.
And he's like, babe, just like shut up.
It's fine. We got so much good stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna be famous. We're gonna get it on film. And then he goes and he gets like the EVP mic, and he is asking Tobi questions, and then he is listening back to the audio. And he says something like, would you prefer talking...
Would you like to talk through a Ouija board? And you hear a... It literally goes... It's like... Yeah. It's like, ooh, is one grunt yes, two is no.
Yeah. And that night, Katie, at one point, just sits up in bed. And then
This scene is good.
Yeah, this is a very iconic scene. She gets up, and then she goes and she stands at the foot of the bed, and the
Stares at Micah for 2 hours.
Like, it speeds through the footage, and we see that she's just staring at him for 2 straight hours. And then she walks downstairs. Micah, like, is like, where the fuck's Katie? And he takes the camera downstairs, and he finds her outside on, like, the porch.
Yeah, the back porch by the pool, like on a swing.
Yeah, she's like on a porch swing, and she's in this weird, like, trance.
He's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, let's go to bed. And she's like, no.
No, I don't want to.
He's like, it's freezing. Like, what are you doing?
Just leave me alone. He's like, I'm gonna go get you blankets or something. Like, oh my God.
And he's going inside.
And then he hears, like, a banging coming from their bedroom. And he goes up to the bedroom and is like, what the fuck? And the TV is on like,
static and, like
poltergeist.
Nobody's there. And then he turns around and all of a sudden Katie's
just standing there.
And she's like, what are you doing? She's like, get back to bed. Like,
yeah, like, she comes out of, like, her trance.
Like, it's like she just woke up. She's like, what are you doing? Get that camera out of my face.
Yeah.
And he's like...
She's like, oh, I'm cold. Just come back to bed. And he's just confused. Like,
what
like, just happened?
And he, like, shows her the next day.
And she doesn't remember any of it.
I don't remember any of this. She's like, I just remember the camera shining in my face in the doorway of me going to bed.
And she's like, well, can we just call the demonologist now? And again, he's like, babe, I got this.
Babe, I got this.
It's nothing serious. Like, da-da-da-da. Okay, and then we get a scene that really shows how shitty he is.
He gets a motherfucking
Ouija board.
Get out of my fucking house. I am fighting this demon myself at this point.
Are you kidding me?
He's done.
So, and this is, I think, the biggest theme of this first Paranormal Activity is, like, just the refusing to believe women, refusing, like, like the toxic masculinity kind of taking over, his ego getting in the way.
Yeah.
And if he just listened to her, the situation would not be escalated.
If they just turned off the camera, called the demonologist right away, he'd probably be like, oh, that's what you need to do. I got you.
But he's like, oh no, she's just like a dumb woman, so I shouldn't listen to her. I'm the man. He even says, like, at one point, he's like, I'm a man. I can do this. You know what I mean? So he gets his fucking Ouija board out, and they're getting ready to, like, go to the movies or something.
Yeah, and she's pissed off.
And he's like, before we go, let's just play with the Ouija board.
She's like, fuck you.
She's like, are you kidding me?
Get rid of it. And he's like, well, she's like, I told you not to get one. He's like, no, you told me not to buy one. She's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck.
You know what I meant, bitch.
She's like, when we get back, that's going in the fucking trash. We're done with the fucking camera. Like, I'm fucking sick of this.
And she must really have wanted to go see whatever movie it was, because
I think they were probably going to dinner too.
Yeah.
They were probably out a full fucking date night.
And he just ruined it.
He just fucking ruined it. I'd be pissed. I'm not talking to you the entire ride there, and you better fucking open my car door when we get there. I'm gonna fucking kick you in the nuts.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
And she stays mad. But then we get, like, probably my favorite scene in the movie. Because while they're gone... This is good, right?
This is fun.
While they're gone, we hear some footsteps again. And then, like, breeze
we see plants.
Rustles.
Started getting rustled by, like, a breeze.
And then the planchette of the Ouija board.
Oh!
Do you like that SAT word, bitch?
Oh, I did!
Planchette, bitch.
Because that would have been, like, the piece.
the little thing.
The triangle
thing. It starts to move around on the board all by itself. as if an invisible force is controlling
Trying
it.
to spell out something.
And then it catches fire.
Do we ever learn what it actually spells out? Is that ever a thing?
We get into it, yeah. The fire then quickly just kind of dies out.
Yeah.
And then the footsteps kind of come back and then they fade away. And Katie and Micah get back from dinner and Katie is still fucking pissed. She's like, I'm going to bed. Fuck you, Micah. And she's, just trying to go to bed. And he's like, wait, look, but the Ouija board though, look, like, has markings on it. And we kind of see, it looks like it has scorch marks.
Yeah.
And it has like a weird kind of design or like pattern on it. And he's like, just come check it out, Katie, God. And she just will not talk to him until he turns the camera off. And so he finally, for the first time this whole fucking movie, decides to listen to her and turns the camera off. When it comes back on, Micah is standing in front of the camera and like reciting this apology that she's forcing him to say. But you can smell his bullshit through the fucking screen, though. The next day, Micah is sitting down with a notebook and he's like going back over the footage of the Ouija board lighting on fire and he's trying to figure out what it was spelling out. And he's got a bunch of like different possibilities and he's trying to get Katie to pay attention to him. And he's like, I think it says goodbye, Diane.
Oh.
And that is what Whitney Houston wanted to say during the Diane interview when she said, tell me, Diane.
Yeah. Do you know?
Do you know?
Diane, tell me. Do you know?
Katie insists that she doesn't want to ponder any further on the fucking Ouija board. And she says, I want you to throw that thing away. I want you to burn it. But Micah has other ideas. He wants to do an experiment with some baby powder. And he's going to put baby powder on the floors and try to see if Tobi leaves footprints. And Katie is like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like pouring the baby powder out. And she's like, what? Like, Micah, like, what is this? And he's like, babe, just take a breath. Pop a pill. It's fine. He's like, I'm taking care of this thing because I'm a man. And you're my girlfriend. And this is my house. And we don't need some demonologist. And that night, powdered footprints appear on the floor.
And they're shaped like little claws.
Yeah, they're gross. They're like kind of three-toed, like claw-y or like hooves or something. It's
nasty.
It's creepy. And yeah, they get up and they're like, what the fuck? And they kind of follow the trail that the footprints lead out down the hall.
Yes.
And it stops in front of this closet. And
they look up and into the like the attic. Like the attic crawl space. Like that little like...
The little door is like propped open.
And they're like, what the
fuck? And she's like, did you do that? And he's like,
no, I didn't. No. And she's like, don't go up there. And he's like, I'm going to go up there.
He goes up there and he finds this picture of Katie from when she was a little girl.
And it's like burnt.
Charred around the edges as if it has come from a fire. And this is freaky as fuck because Katie's like, this picture should not exist. Like, this is a picture we had in the old house that burned and, we lost everything.
Yeah.
And that's so creepy to me, the idea that this picture, like, exists.
Yeah.
And, I also, if I remember correctly, this picture comes into play in the sequels. Oh. So keep it in mind. Remember this, like, photograph of Katie for when we cover, like, Paranormal Activity 2.
Yeah.
Because this picture actually is important.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And this is when Katie's like, okay, we are going to call the demonologist. But he's on vacation.
Holiday for our European friends.
He's on holiday.
Holiday.
And that night we see the downstairs lights turn on and we hear footsteps coming up the stairs and into the bedroom. And I said, wouldn't this be funny if it was like
high heels?
The high heel sound effects, so like...
You mean literally?
Yeah. Micah, do you hear that? Katie, what's that?
Micah. Micah.
Someone's serving cunt in the house. And Micah goes to open the door, but he gets jump scared by like a bunch of banging sounds. And I have to wonder in this moment, what is Micah's plan? Because he has no weapon, and he's this skinny little like twink, pretty much. And I'm like, what the fuck are you gonna do, Micah? Like, I would not trust this man to protect me at all. He runs out, and this is when the other doors in the hallway starts like slamming.
Yeah.
And we hear more banging. Katie is just freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, he convinced her to come back to bed with him, but Katie is just not getting any sleep. She is so scared. And she's like sitting on the couch the next day, and she looks so rough. And it's funny because the reason why we didn't have a Let's Scream episode last week is because I was so sick and I could not sleep because I was so sick. And I was watching this like pretty much right after I started to feel better.
And you're like, oh, I feel you're on.
Yeah, and I literally felt just like Katie in this scene where she's sitting on the couch with the blanket on.
Yeah.
She just looks rough, bitch. And the next day, they're just like eating lunch downstairs. And it's in the middle of the daytime too.
Stuff doesn't really happen. It always happens at night.
Always happens at night until this moment we hear a crazy like
glass smashing. And they're like, what the fuck?
And they find this framed picture of the two of them is smashed perfectly where the cracks line up right over Micah's face.
And there's also some scratch marks on the picture.
Like on the picture itself is scratched like a claw or something. It's scary. And honestly, if I was Tobi, I wouldn't like Micah either. Fuck Micah.
He's filming me.
Yeah.
He's yelling at me.
He's rude. He's being mean
bringing
to
out
his
a Ouija
wife.
board. He's being rude to her. It's just... I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it.
And
you happy? I don't like you.
I don't like you. You happy?
And I don't like you. Are you happy? I don't like you.
And then Katie's like, oh my God, Micah, it's here. I can feel him breathing on me. And then her hair starts to like kind of blow in the wind. And I think he was just trying to give her like a fan.
Yeah, like, girl, calm down.
He wanted to give her like a Beyonce,
okay. Hey, I'm here for you.
Mariah, kind of like a hair.
Yes, like I'm here for you, girl. Don't worry.
A wind machine, bitch. He was trying to give her a wind machine, but yeah, she gets spooked, and this is when we see that Katie decided to call Dr. Fredericks, the psychic, back, see if there's any way he could come and help. And when he shows up, he's like, oh hell no! Oh, I can't be here right now.
He's like, it does not want me here.
The vibes are bad, like bad motherfucking.
He's like,
vibes.
oh, it's mad that I'm here. Y'all have pissed it off. I'm out.
Yeah, peace
out.
out.
Please don't leave. He's like, listen, I will get you help.
Yeah,
but I can't be here.
I have to leave. I have to leave. And so they're like, well, what the fuck do we do now? And at this point, I'm like, why don't they just go to like a priest or something? Like, why? Like, why is this demonologist their, like, last resort?
Yeah.
I don't know. But...
A priest could be like, God.
Micah has so much money.
You know what they need? Have you ever seen that video of the guy, the priest who, like, on TikTok absolves you of your sin?
Yeah, the one who's like, you have now been cured of your sins.
It's like the I think if they did that,
I think if Katie had just watched that video, she'd be fine.
Tobi would be dead.
I absolve you of your sins. You have been forgiven.
I absolve you of your sins. I absolve.
That's it. That's how you defeat Tobi. So that night, and by this point in the movie, you're like, every time you see this shot on the tripod of their bed, you're like, some fuck shit is certainly about to go down.
Yeah, you're like, okay, fast forward to the time that something happens.
Oh my God. And this is when we see a shadow move past the fucking door frame. And then, like, an invisible force, like, lifts up the covers and gets in bed with Katie. Ew. And it, like, kind of, like, pulls her feet out from the cover. I think he likes feet. I think he's a foot fetish guy.
Some people are.
And Katie like wakes up with a gasp. And Micah goes to investigate, but again, finds nothing.
Yeah.
So he does some research and he shows Katie, and it's this website, which I think it's funny that instead of like it being a news article or something, it's like this shitty
like blog website.
HTML website. Yeah, like very like creepypasta.
Yes.
Energy.
Like very of the time though.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what websites look like.
Yeah, that's true. It was a very old web, but it describes this story of this bitch named Diane. Again, fucking Diane.
Diane, tell me, do you know?
That's where the Goodbye Diane.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And she was possessed, most likely, by Tobi in the 60s. And by the time her family called an exorcist to come help, it was too far gone, and basically her body and her soul had been overtaken by Tobi.
Yeah.
And the next day, Micah is like putting the camera on her face while she's trying to study. And he's trying to talk about Tobi, and she gets pissed, and she does not want to be filmed anymore in this moment.
Yeah.
And they get into this big fight. And I just wrote, if I was Katie at this moment, I would take his camera away and I would smash his motherfucking camera.
Yeah.
Because he's clearly making everything worse. And this is when Katie just has a mental breakdown, and she's on the floor, like, just in hysterics. And she's just exhausted. And then that night, another shadow moves past the door frame. And then Katie just gets yeeted out of her bed. And, like, he drags her, like, out the room and slams the door on Micah. And Micah goes and, like, saves her. And she's basically like, I need to leave. She's like, I don't care if, like, it'll follow me. We just need to... I can't be in this house right now. And the next day, we see that Tobi has left this huge
bite mark on her.
And it had all these, like... he has, like, a bunch of, like, nasty teeth.
You
like,
they're not...
Sharp.
It's not like a human, like, bit her.
No, it's like some... I don't know, like a snake or something. It's creepy. And... this is when Micah finds Katie sitting on the floor. She's in like another trance mode. And she's clutching a cross or like a crucifix
like,
thing.
So hard that like she's bleeding.
Yes, that like her hand is literally bloody. And he's like, what the fuck? And this is when I'm so confused. He takes her cross that she's clearly like holding on for like...
and he burns that.
protection. And he like burns her cross. Like, Micah.
Like, goddamn.
What are you thinking? And he goes back upstairs where Katie is resting in bed. But she's like, I want to stay. She switched up.
She's like, I don't want to go.
She's like, I don't want to go anymore. I think everything will be fine.
She's like, I think we need to stay here.
Let's just stay.
Go, we got to stay.
And then she says, I think we'll be okay now. But
it's like distorted and creepy.
It sounds like there's another... This is so creepy, but it sounds like there's like a deeper voice like on top of her voice. Like it's like an overlay effect.
Very creepy.
And it's so chilling. I hate it. Because it's subtle, but so creepy.
Yeah.
And she kind of smiles to herself. And then she goes to sleep. And then we get the final night. Basically, Katie wakes up in another trance here. And she's like in full possessed mode though at this point. Like she's walking all like rigidly.
Yeah.
I wrote she's walking more stiff than Q from Drag Race. And then the covers like magically lift off of Micah. Mm-hmm. And then she does her like famous like I'm just gonna stand over you for like 3 hours and watch you. Then she stops. And she goes downstairs. And then she, like, screams his name, like, crazy, like...
Yeah.
Micah! Like,
just screaming.
This piercing
like,
scream.
It's, like, agonizing. And he jumps up and is running. He's like, "What? Oh, my God, Katie, what's wrong?"
Katie.
Like, and then as soon as he gets downstairs, you just hear him go, "Oh, my God." And then, like...
And you kind of hear him, like, grunt, like, and then, like... silence. And then we hear footsteps slowly approaching the bedroom. And then Micah's body
gets thrown.
Yeah, like
at the
disappears.
camera.
It catapults into the camera. It like knocks the camera off the tripod, so like it's at an angle.
It's like falling to the ground.
And we see Katie
standing like right behind,
covered in blood, and she's standing there. And then she kind of walks up to his body, and she crouches down over him, and then she looks right up at the camera. And then this is the part that I hate. Her face gets all like CGI, like demon face. And she like jumps at the camera and it cuts off, and that's the end.
I think it could have just honestly ended with we seeing her standing behind him.
Sure.
Covered in blood. It could have just cut
there. Or if maybe instead of like a CGI demon face, it was either practical effects.
Yeah.
Or if maybe her eyes were just like blacked out completely.
Yeah.
That could have been creepy. But it's that this movie is so subtle and scary and effective and creepy and really feels like a realistic, like you're watching something real. And then it just gets cheapened by this dumb CGI face at the end.
Yeah.
Hate it. But yeah, then we see a title card that says Micah's body was discovered by police on October 11, 2006. Katie's whereabouts remain unknown. And that's Paranormal Activity.
Oh my goodness.
So yes, definitely scary, definitely fun.
It's a good one.
Not my favorite
it's short.
Paranormal Activity.
It's not a long movie. Like I said, it doesn't overstay its welcome, which is, for me, with any movie, not just horror movies. Sometimes movies just are too fucking long. And they just go on a little too long and I get a little irritated.
And this is like,
or they're too short where I'm like, I need more.
I like the pacing and like the build up and how every night the story kind of progresses a little bit more and the characters like the status quo is changed.
Yes.
Because some of the Paranormal Activity sequels, if I'm remembering them correctly, like I think 4 in particular, is just like so monotonous. Nothing happens story wise
until like the last.
The characters go on no arc. And,
which is, I also think a big problem with a lot of found footage films is like nothing happens until the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. Whereas this has a nice gradual
there's shit happening the whole time that you're kind of like, what the fuck? And you kind of do want to be like, what's happening? I want to know.
Yeah.
Like I want to know what's happening. It
intrigues you for sure, yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of all there is to it. It's not, it's not a super complicated movie. It's simple but effective.
All right. Well, this was a fun one.
This was so fun. Do you want to talk about what we're doing next week?
Oh, a classic. A classic. And actually Oscar nominated.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to Baby Jane? Starring Betty Davis and Joan Crawford.
2 icons.
Amazing icons. Yeah. And I love that movie. It holds up so well.
Yeah.
It's a long one. I will say that. It's a long one.
I'm working on the outline right now, and it's taken me like a few days.
I recommend if you're going to watch it like on a Sunday afternoon. Don't do it in the middle. Don't do it at night. Because it's long.
You won't get through it, bitch. You will fall asleep.
It is long. But it's a good one.
But it's so good. It's so campy. I love Baby Jane.
I love it.
Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today on Let's Scream. I hope you had a fun time with us at Micah and Katie's house.
Please remember to follow the pod, like the pod, and leave a glowing review of the pod.
And you can also send us movie requests for future episodes. You can follow me at Parker_Will_C.
And you can follow me at Stevie Nash 95 on Instagram.
Until next time, this has been
Let's Scream. Bye.